Hello, this is the start of a new series about Mercury through the houses, and I thought we'd just talk about Mercury a little bit first and get to know what it actually indicates. So, in the natural zodiac, Mercury rules uh, third house and sixth house, Gemini and Virgo. So they're both of them are actually dual houses. One is air sign, Gemini. The other one is an earth sign, which is Virgo. So they're both very, very important houses. They're both Upachaya houses, which means they're big time, and once you start working with them, they start to get better. And this is really very much indicative of what Mercury is, because Sun is the king, Moon is the queen, and this is their son, their child. So there is, wherever we have in our charts Mercury, we are slightly immature about it, because obviously this is about young children, kids, youth, adolescents, students. So this is all very much about the process of growing and things in wherever. Then once we apply ourselves, things get better. So there is a naivety about the house that Mercury resides in our chart. So I thought we'd just have a look and just see, what kind of things are indications for Mercury. So Mercury is obviously communication, because it rules the third house of natural zodiac. So you're born in the first, in the second one, obviously you're with family, you start to speak. And then third house is you start to move, express yourself, communicate what your needs are. So it's very much about self-expression, and you start using your hands and gestures. So as a baby, you see that they know what it is to say goodbye. They just, if they don't like something, they can use their hands and just like push the food away if they don't want to. So it's very much about like learning to let the others how you are feeling, and that actually never leaves you. And we know, all of us in life, that people who have the most fulfilling lives and relationships are the people who can actually express themselves fully, let the people know they kind of know, they know their own boundaries. They just know how, when things doesn't sound right, they can just communicate it. And those are friends and family members that we respect most, because we know that if they don't want to do anything, they can't be persuaded really, and they know themselves, they know their mind. Sometimes they're a little bit willful, but nonetheless, though, it's not a bad thing. So it actually rules Mercury rules friends, siblings, communication, any form of communication, rules the arts, rules things like intellect. I think Sun is intelligence and Mars is logic, but Mercury is practical and intellectual, and that's, I think, one of the things that Sage Gemini says about the sixth house, is that it's an important sign of the zodiac, because it's like literally how you get by day to day, how you manage yourself, manage your life, manage your money. Without a good Mercury, people can hoard, people can't, they just cannot, they become like victims of their own weakness, if you like, in relationships, in jobs, etc., where they can't express themselves, and people think that they're okay with the status quo, and then there's just misunderstanding going on there. So it is a very, very important thing. But obviously, both third and sixth house, there are Upachaya houses, so they do get better with time. But generally speaking, because it rules friends, neighbours, siblings, and your colleagues as well, so it's literally is how we kind of interact with people, friendships, associates, those kind of things are all very Mercurial things. Mercury rules currency, stock exchange, stock market. It any kind of work which is paperwork, like clerical work, learning, students, schools, any form of travel, moving around, exercise, being active, being out and about, hobbies and interests. I mean, it's such an important planet. Jobs to do with computer as well, so any form of technology, mobile phones, computers, satellite dishes, anything like that is all to do with graphic design, marketing, visual arts generally, things you make with your hands, any form of talents and skills, courses that you do to learn things that then they can apply to your life. All of those are to do with your third house, which is all to do with Mercury. So Mercury is siblings, and obviously in the third house, it's also your will and your bravery as well, because this is when you've been born, you start to talk, then you start to express yourself, and you start to become brave. This is probably the time when your brother or sister, younger or older brother and sister, they come and take your toy away, and you have to fight for your toy, because this is like, no, this is mine. So you have to be brave and tell the person no, set boundaries and allow them, or if they do something wrong, you kind of brave it and say, don't do it, don't touch my toy, don't eat my sweets, things like that. So it's that kind of thing as well. It says also it rules fast food, because it's a fast moving planet, and so this is when you meet up with friends, go for a cafe, go to their coffee shop, have a coffee, and maybe an express sort of food like sandwiches and pizza. All those sort of takeaway foods, fast foods, are all ruled by Mercury. So, and it's obviously travel, but short distance travel is ruled by Mercury. And so this is the reason why when you're actually working, because Mercury likes to be busy, and is curious as a planet. So when you actually get really stuck on a project, it's really good to start moving. Just go for a short walk or make yourself a drink and just move around a little bit, and that kind of helps Mercury, develop things. It's strong in the first house, so it gets directional strength in the first house. But it also means that in the first house there is things that needs to be developed, because wherever Mercury is in our chart, that's where we are a little bit young about it, a bit naive and immature maybe even about it, because we don't really, it's a young thing, it's a young planet, and it needs to develop over time, and things just get better with time. However, in the first house, it will always have that real focus. From there, it will be aspecting your seventh house, so it indicates that you want to be with somebody, because Mercury also rules games and having fun, doing fun things, comedy, being comedic, jokes, things like that. So it likes a bit of banter. And so when it's aspect in the seventh house, you want to be with somebody who maybe was your friend, you can be friendly with, you can chat to, you can have a laugh with, and do like fun things together, like go to dance classes together, or you go to, I don't know, go to walking groups, or just kind of interact, go to the cinema together, travel together quite a lot. They like that. They like somebody who's active. They go maybe to hikes and go skiing together and things like that. So these will be very important to them. And it also rules kind of interaction in terms of business and commerce. It's all ruled by by Mercury as well. Mercury does make the person, particularly if it's strong in their chart, multi-talented, because they want to know a little bit about everything. And you find that when you have Mercury Dasha or Mahadasha, as Mahadasha or the Subdasha, Antardasha, you actually get interested in all forms of different things. If it falls like in your, because it's data and information, and particularly if it falls in your 8th house during a Dasha, you want to do research to gain more information. You're just hungry for information. And it rules as a planet, obviously 3rd house rules your hands, your arms and shoulders, and in the 6th house rules your digestive system. And so, and the Mercury in the first house or anything like that will actually, you also kind of notice that he has got third and sixth house indications as well, but obviously in different houses that house indications will come into it as well. So Mercury does really well obviously in Gemini because it rules Gemini, and it also rules Virgo. Virgo is not just own house, but at 15 degrees is actually also the exaltation degree of Mercury. And from 15 to 20 degrees, it's actually, I probably say the rest of it, it's like more Trachona sign, which means like the head office of very comfortable there. And it also is debilitated in Pisces. And obviously, you know, Mercury is friendly with the Sun, Venus and Saturn and Rahu, Ketu. But it very much struggles with Jupiter and also with Mars. These are the two planets that are not good with for Mercury. Mercury does, if it is close to Saturn, it will have issues because obviously it means that it develops even later. There's a shyness about it, has difficulty expressing itself, and there's always like, particularly because it is also a planet that's it's an earthy planet, even though it rules an air sign and an earth sign, but generally speaking it is an earthy sign. It likes material things, and so when it is in earthy signs, it can have a jealousy issue as well, because it is the green-eyed thing as well, you know, because it's immature about things, so it can have like those things as well. So so generally speaking though, if it is in an earthy sign or in earthy planet nakshatras, person has got to really work in order to move forward, not to actually be hung up on what other people have or what other people did, and actually just free themselves of all that and then just move themselves forward. Because when you work with Mercury really well, Mercury gives you a lot of things in life because it's a fun planet, and why wouldn't you want to have all the fun in your life? So, and obviously this is going to be about a sort of like a Mercury that's not in conjunction or aspected by any planets. I'm just going to give you the purest form, and it naturally also rules the skin, and rules respiratory system, and also your nervous system and allergies. So you often find when it is either in transit or in a dasha, or if in your chart naturally is actually in, say, in Jupiter sign or in Mars signs. In Mars, it will give you inflammation of the skin, so you have to really kind of, as with anything, it gets better with time. You know, because Mars is impulsive, and obviously this is Mercury's planet of speech, so it can give you reactive, impulsive speech. You say things without thinking, because that's what Mars does. You know, sort of agitates Mercury, and that can happen with conjunction, aspect, or Mercury sitting in Mars's sign. So that can happen. That can happen the opposite as well if Mars is in Mercury signs too. When it is with Jupiter, or in Jupiter nakshatras, or in Jupiter signs, or Jupiter also in Mercury signs, they're opposites, and they really are very different agenda. So Mercury is a bit gossipy, and it's a little bit fickle because it's a planet of fast moving. It's young, and obviously, you know, Jupiter is wisdom, the wise one, the older one, you know. So and so there is like a gender issue there. So that can also, because also what happens with Jupiter expands everything as well. So you'll find that the person who has that, they can't stop talking. And sometimes even if it's happening in, like, say, for example, in transit, you can't help yourself but just like over talking. It's such a chatty, or if Rahu does the same thing, expands like the speech, but not in a bad way. But with Jupiter it does, because Jupiter just can't stop it, because it expands it. And Jupiter can be a little bit like what's the Jupiter is a little bit like I know best kind of thing. So it gives that kind of it projects that onto Mercury as well, so things come out like that. And sometimes it creates problems with the nervous system. And obviously because Jupiter rules liver, we can actually start having liver issues. So we have to be careful about those kind of things. Be just working on our planets, because remember, our planets are us. It's how we. So once you can actually work with wisdom with everything. But I really do think it's a wonderful, wonderful way to use your chart really well to your advantage. So. Obviously, because it rules your respiratory system, some of the remedies with Mercury are really easy. So I think Mercury always does better if you got afflicted Mercury, is to always be aware that you need to exercise, you need to be active, and you need to spend time with friends and cousins as well, because six houses, cousins and aunts and things like that. So. And you just want to be like, so do connect with people, do join groups if they are interested in cooking, do a cooking class, carpentry, things like that, because they can be very multi-talented. And it really does you good to do some breathing exercises, meditation, yoga, things like that, but particularly breathing, just learning to breathe. And because it rules the respiratory system, and that really, the oxygenation really helps your digestive system, because it rules the digestive system. And normally Mercury, sixth house Mercury has got issues, but if it's or sixth house or Mercury, or it gives you digestive issues. So you can have all those things like candida and Crohn's disease and things like that can occur because of that. So by oxygenating and slowing things down, it can really help. Just taking, using the best in best things in life. So just wanted to say also, so wherever Mercury is, it will also aspect 7 houses away only. That's the only time. And so what will happen is those areas of your life, you do well to share them with friends. And it kind of, because it's also a benefic planet, it really helps kind of have an approach with it that that things will improve. Mercury is the only planet that changes its nature according to the planets that it sits with. So if it's conjunct malefics like Rahu, Ketu, Sun, Mars or Saturn, it does become malefic. And also, so its nature can be a little bit negative. And also the other thing I wanted to say was that it's I only take 8 degrees away from the sun as a combustion, because it's a planet that is friendly with the sun and travels with the sun and Venus normally. So therefore, it can actually work really, really well with the sun, as long as within 8 degrees. Obviously, if it's retrograde, then you have to really kind of take maybe 10 degrees. But generally speaking, it does work okay with the sun. It gives good intelligence as long as both of them are ruling good houses for you. But yeah, so the house that they're in, they're definitely going to be, if it is on its own, then it's going to be really good. So anyway, that's about Mercury. Thank you. When Mercury is in your first house, so first house is yourself, and it's your personality, it's your vitality, it's how you look, how you are, your behavior and all that kind of things. And when Mercury is in your first house, you like to be busy. And Mercury has got directional strength here, so it has got really good focus, particularly if this, obviously we are talking about Mercury that's not afflicted, it's not conjunct or aspected by any planets, but just on its own. If it's in a really good friendly house, or it's exalted, in, you know, the condition is good, then it has massive focus. It can really help you throughout life. For one thing, it gives you practicality and intellect. Even if it's a difficult house, it still gives you focus, and it does get better with time. And so Mercury in the first house, definitely that ability to do things that are okay, and having that vision really helps too. And this person obviously will be very much about aware of self, wants to communicate, wants to be friendly, wants to be chatting, connecting to others, multitask, be busy, have lots of interests. So they're very, very they're fun to be around, you know, because they're always busy and doing things. So that they're not going to have a dull moment really. So that's for sure. And so when it's in the first house, it's also aspecting 7 houses from itself. So it means that they are looking for partnerships or relationships with somebody they can be friends with, they can chat, do things with, and travel also will be very much the focus. So this is how they come together. And so it is a pretty good good combination. So if Mercury is in your first house and your Aries ascendant, so this will mean that for Aries ascendant, Mercury rules 3rd and 6th house. So they're not particularly good houses, and Mars and Mercury are not friendly planets to each other. So in the first house, it can create so obviously it gives you 6th house things and 3rd house things. So it will mean that your speech can cause you issues, and maybe fall out with friends, and your friends become enemies to you. And you can also, or your friends, if it's in the first house, you can create your own obstacles and debts and diseases. Maybe the way you eat, your diet is, or lack of diet, or whatever, is you're over exercising or under exercising, that will create those issues as well. So these are the things that you can do. So to remedy that, you can do breathing exercises, you can do yoga, meditation, Tai Chi, all those kind of nice things. And just be really aware and slow it down. Luckily though, if Mercury has got any aspects from Saturn, that will ground it for sure. So this is like Aries ascendant. But remember that these are Upachaya houses, so they do get better with time. But being in the first house is a clever person, and is going to be adventurous, and probably would want to do adventurous pursuits as such. Climbing and skiing and heli ski and all that kind of very adventurous stuff. And definitely a mover shaker, very much so. If it's for Taurus ascendant in the first house, this is your 2nd and 5th house rule in the first house. So it creates a really nice Dhan or Raja Yoga for you. And this will be like somebody who's friendly and really wants to be very close to their family, keeping in contact with their family and their children as well. They have that kind, they want to do things with their children as well, and they're quite romantic. 5th house rule in the first house, so it creates a nice environment, and they're really friendly towards each other, so the actual feeling will be really good. They could also be quite cultured as well, because Mercury and Venus together are planets of Venus is teacher and Mercury is learning, so they could be quite cultured as well, and very much into arts, and they like to go to museums and things like that. When you have Mercury in Gemini, so this will be somebody who is obviously own house, so very good. This is going to they create, because also Mercury rules the fourth house for them, they're really happy in their environment. They love being friendly with their mum. They like, they like to do fun things with family and friends, and their mum is very important to them. And so it does create a really nice Raja Yoga on the first house. So it's very good, very chatty, very intellectual, practical. They're very, like the same as if it was also in Taurus. They can really navigate their way through life really well. They can manage their home stuff like that really well. They're practical, so they can actually do home decorating and things like that. So they very much like that. They're very helpful as well. So these are the people that if your car is stuck in snow or something like that, they come out and help you. Very service oriented. So then if Mercury is in Cancer, actually one thing I didn't say is like Mercury and Moon don't get on very well actually. So there's a little bit of misunderstanding between the two planets. So both of them really affect the mind, both Mercury and the Moon. And so when you have a planet of thinking, because third house is thinking process, Mercury thinking process, and it goes into Cancer, it's just like it can't be practical because it's too feeling, not enough doing. And this is a planet of doing going into feeling, and it's just like, yeah, it's a little bit confusing. They just like they could make themselves a list and then feel really overwhelmed about doing it. So they actually, when it comes to organization, it will be difficult for them. And don't forget, for Cancer, this Mercury rules 3rd and 12th house. So they could, 3rd house is friends, siblings, colleagues, and 12th house is losses. So they could lose money because of friends, or they could just like through poor communications, they can lose friends, things like that. But it still makes the person quite chatty, but emotionally, they want to be with friends who they can emotionally connect. They're probably more private about their friends. They have less friends, but they're really quite close to them. But they won't be very good at communicating, so you can actually contact them and they take a while to get back to you, that kind of stuff. But yeah, so it's more emotional connection will be important to them. And they'll be thinking quite a lot about, they're not going to just respond to something quickly, because 12th house, they have to think, what to write, that kind of stuff. For Leo ascendant, obviously Leo ascendants, they have, or if Mercury is in Leo, Mercury in Leo, so this will be a friendly sign. They're friendly towards each other. And Mercury is works quite well there, and being in the first house as well. So it's going to just like really be good at managing self. This is like sign of intelligence and the planet of intellect and practicality. So they're going to be really, really good. They're going to be quite educational as well, because obviously it's a natural 5th house. So they could be really quite academic, quite sort of like well researched, well read, that kind of thing. And they have all this good luck from previous life, 5th house being a really good trine house. So, and they just love being around children and educating and passing on like good information to children. So there's like this kind of romantic thing going on, because obviously this is also a house of romance, 5th house of natural zodiac. And so it works really well there, because also being friendly with that. And this is particularly if you are a Leo ascendant, this is a planet that makes you money. So when it's in the first house, it can create really good intelligence and intellect to actually pursue what would be things to do with money and investments. And this is natural 5th house of the zodiac, which is investments. So it can work quite well. depending on the rest of the chart as well. But Mercury is in Virgo. Mercury in Gemini is different to Mercury in Virgo. Mercury in Gemini is a bit fickle. It's a little bit sort of like lighter, if you like, in energy. But in Virgo, it's a little bit more serious, because this is like accumulation is very important to these people. It's an earth sign. So it's more grounded, it's more practical, so it's more service oriented as well, because it's a natural sixth house of the zodiac. So it's a little bit more selfless. Whereas in Mercury in Gemini can be, can be a bit gossipy. Did you hear that this happened? And if they hear anything, they're on to their friends, telling everybody about this thing. Particularly if it's not well aspected, they probably won't be able to keep it as a secret, really. But in this, they think more. They're much more aware. They kind of, and because they are everything, they need to plan things and have things in order, and they probably compartmentalize things quite a bit as well. So they could. Their actions are much more thoughtful. They probably, hear if he hasn't got any bad aspects, and it's a good, they could actually really be practical, really be. This is also in the first house. This will be like 10th house ruler as well in the first house. So they will be able to create their own job. They'll be multi-talented, logical. They can actually give structure to everything that they do. Could be slightly OCD about it as well. Because they can also worry, because Mercury can do that. And this is the natural sixth house of the zodiac. So you can give themselves a little bit of headache, through just overdoing things, if you like. But if they do Mercurial remedy things like breathing and walking, and just like literally have good interests and friends and share things, they'll be absolutely fine. Highly intellectual, very academic sign it can be as well. They make really good lawyers, these people, because they're very good at detail. And these are the people that if they're your friends, and they can help you with things to do with law and tackling issues in life. Very good. And they can definitely problem solvers. And this will get, this is a really, really nice setup as well. I meant to say actually, if for these people as well, they can literally help anyone. They are so this Virgo is a sign that can really be selfless if it's nicely aspected. So very good. Then we have if his first house is Libra, so this is like 12th and 9th house ruler in the first house. So this is when there could be a lot of travel. Dad could be away quite a lot as well, or they could not really know their dad very well. But they could also go abroad for their teachings and stuff like that. But let's create a really nice Raj Yoga if it's on the first house. So it's really good, very artistic, very, very socially intelligent, socially aware, because Libra is very socially aware. It's a friendly sign for them. It's first house. So it's really good, and it will obviously really help them to achieve greatness in life, really. So, and get respect and happiness, because this is all 9th house stuff on the first house. Also, because it's the 12th house rule as well, they need to retract from everything in order to just preserve their vitality. If it is for Scorpio, this is 8th house ruler and 11th house ruler in the first house. So 8th house is a Dushtana house, and 11th house is a Kama house. So it's a desire-based house. So what will happen is when, because this is obviously not a friendly sign to them, this will be the 8th house of natural zodiac as well as the 8th house ruler for them being in the first house. So it just means that there will be a lot of changes in their life. There'll be transformational things going on in their life, and things will kind of change, and because the change will be difficult for them, because Mercury will go into Mercury is a flexible planet. in a sign that's quite fixed. So they'll be difficult. But if they just let go and surrender, they will really have an amazing thing. They could inheritance stuff as well, because also eighth house rule in the first house, and but there will be changes to their life, or their in-laws can also they can gain a lot through their in-laws as well, because 11th house is gains. And what will happen is as well, they can, because 11th house and 8th house are involved, sometimes losses will give them gains, or through friends they get gains, large groups of friends, or they can have losses as well through that, because 8th house can also be losses too. But 11th house is a house that gets better with time, so it's one of those upachaya houses. Then we have and it can give you impulsive speech again, because it's creating Mars, Mercury there. But also what it will do, it will help your 7th house, because it's friendly to, it will, whatever house it is, it will always help your 7th house, because it's a natural benefic aspect in your 7th house. Then we have, if it was in the 1st house for Sagittarius ascendant, this is 7th and 10th house rule in the 1st house. So you just mean that you could be working with your spouse, or you marry your business partner, that kind of thing will happen. And so work is very much on your mind. You are your work, so you that kind of stuff. It is a good one, because also from Sagittarius, it'll be aspecting 7th house, so it really does protect the 7th house of business partners and relationships as well. And they'll be very playful too, because it's a playful, anytime you have 1st house Mercury, it will be playful with the 7th house, so they want to have like a really fun relationship and marriage, and that's how you will ignite somebody who's got that as well. So you don't do the get married and just watch television together. Just get out and enjoy life. They like that, gives you more. If it's in Capricorn, so 1st house Mercury for a Capricorn ascendant, this will be a 6th and 9th house ruler. So it could also be that person is very much into their health and healing and looking good, that kind of stuff, and it gives you intelligence, because it's a friendly sign to actually get yourself out of life's trials and manage yourself really well. And because this also rules a trinal house, it will be good, because those kind of just managing your life really well and using your intellect to do that, it will really give you happiness, and you'll travel a lot as well, because it's a 9th house ruler in the 1st house. So, and then we have Aquarius ascendant. For Aquarius ascendant, this is your 5th and 8th house ruler in the 1st house, so immediately creates a really nice Raja Yoga and 5th house ruler in the 1st house of intelligence and intellect coming together. And this will be also somebody who is very into technology as well, because Aquarius is very technological sign. It's a humanitarian sign too. They're very much involved in things like, maybe in their community they want to do things, they want their children to be aware of, or students, or educate themselves on things to do with humanitarian stuff. Is very nice. But there could be some distance, because 8th house cuts you a little bit, gives you a little bit difficulties with children or investments or education. So there could be a break in your education too. And when Mercury is in Pisces, obviously it's debilitated there, but it still has directional strength. And it will be aspecting Virgo, which is your 7th house, so it really helps and protects your 7th house. But Mercury in Pisces has got a very creative mind, in the sense that it's abstract. It's not like it's very opposite to Virgo. Virgo is very practical. Everything has got to measure up. Okay, this is like big picture. So they're much more spiritual minded people, much more aware of charities and charitable work and things like that. And it's also going to be a Mercury that likes to retract from the world, because it's, Pisces is the natural 12th house of the zodiac, and that's how it recharges itself. And depending on the actual I think particularly if it's at the very first degrees in Uttara Bhadrapada, sorry, Purva Bhadrapada, they're very different. You know, they have got that very, because it's a very unusual nakshatra. It's part of Aquarius as well. So Mercury in that, because it's a Jupiter one, is going to be very out there, you know, very unusual. They could say things and do things that are really, well, whoa, it's quite taboo, you know. And so, and it's also expansive, and it's a water sign, so it doesn't, it's a planet that doesn't do so well in the watery signs, because it lacks more stability. So it's not going to work quite as well as in Sagittarius. In Sagittarius, it's going to be much more like talking their belief system, and I'll know the truth. It's very much like I know best. Here it's like, it's going to be different. It's so funny when we all have all these things in our charts that we have to deal with. It is quite funny. The best thing is to just like navigate your way lovely through your life. This is how it could be, but I'm going to use it in this particular way. So it's magical, really, when you think about it. So yeah, it could be a really good writer, because obviously it's natural third house of the zodiac is ruled by Mercury, and when they travel far distances, all of this knowledge comes out, which is really fantastic. And also it's fourth house ruler in the first house, so they're just generally happy, you know, gives you that wonderful abstract happiness, you know, that it's very it's kind of satisfied, you know. It doesn't need to be necessarily materialistic, which is always good. So that's my take on Mercury in the first house. I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.